Superpowered Smash Buster!
Hello everybody, my name is Ben Lichius and I am the art director for Dark Unicorn Games. I'm also a graphic designer, professional illustrator. The latest project that I've been working on is Superpowered Smash Masters, and this is a new card game from Dark Unicorn Games. And if you want to support me or Dark Unicorn Games, you can go to... Wait, I thought it was supposed to like appear. Something's supposed to appear here. Oh, I didn't make that graphic. I guess I'm going to have to make that graphic for anything. Go to darkunicorngames.com. You can get a copy of this game. There's also a expansion set you can pick up. Anyway, I did a lot of comic book character drawing for this game, and I wanted to share a little bit with you about how I did it and some of the thought process that goes into creating comic book characters, specifically superheroes, but doesn't have to be. Just thinking about drawing characters in general, but more with a comic book bent to it. Last time we talked about building things with shapes, and so I want to talk to you about what the next step in my process is, my thought process as I build characters. First is I want to know how to construct characters. So I want to know what shapes I need and that kind of thing. But also the next step then is I want to know why I'm drawing characters. I want to know what it is that they're doing. So to illustrate that a little bit, let me just show you, can bring up an example here. So what we have here is just a guy, right? And make sure I'm on the right thing. And there's, nothing wrong with this guy. He's just kind of standing around. And if we wanted to, we could think about what we did last time to draw this guy. We used some shapes. We used like a little box here to start. There's his abdomen. We did some circles and some cylinders. This cylinder's a little bit in space, right? It's a box for a hand. Another shoulder. Cylinders. They look like boxes, but they're actually cylinders. Circles for the joints, right? Triangle. Right. So these figures can kind of come together pretty quickly, right? So we had talked about that. Hand. Boxes for feet. And like I said, there's just sort of nothing wrong with this guy. He's just sort of there. He's got a costume. He's got a pose. But I want to talk about is like, what's the difference between that guy and this guy, right? It's just another loose sketch. But if you look closely, what's the difference? Right. This guy has a hat on. No, that's not it. If we just, well, maybe if we just give this guy a hat here, maybe. No, there's more to this than just drawing a hat. So what I want to suggest is that part of the difference here, or at least for me initially when I'm starting to draw, the difference is purpose. And so what I want to say is lesson 2, we're going to draw on purpose. And so that just means that when we're drawing, we're thinking about what it is that this character is doing. What is their purpose for being there? Why am I even drawing it? It doesn't mean you always have to do that. You can just sketch and doodle and draw whatever you want, and there's really nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to creating a character, you're doing it for a purpose. And so you want your character to have purpose as well. And that can mean, this is sort of a subtle thing, but it can mean a lot of different things. As we're looking at this guy right here, it may have something to do with his movement through the frame here, through the page. It may have to do with the direction that he's looking, his expression, the angle of the camera, might be it could be lighting, it could be attitude, it could be costume. And so there's a lot of different things that kind of go into this idea of giving a character some purpose. And it doesn't even have to be dynamic in any way. So here's another example. Here's a character very similar to our guy with the baseball cap, but you'll see similar pose. But all she's doing really, the only thing that's different is she's just kind of got a little bit of a tilt to her head, right? So a little tilt there. And her eye line, she's also looking over here. You're starting to get the sense that she's in a space and that her attention is drawn to something. And so what you're getting, and she's also holding, I don't even know what that is. I just made her hold something. And why? To give her a little bit of a story, a little bit of an idea of why it is that she might be here. And so all these other things like her costume, she's carrying a sword, this all kind of starts to play into that. And as you look at these different elements, you start to get what I'm going to call purpose for this character. So here's another example. This is this is sort of a sketch that I was working on for Smash Masters. And you can see that there's not a lot of dynamic stuff going on here. Again, this is all a lot of very subtle kind of things, but he's just a normal pose, but he's got his arms crossed, right? So he's kind of got his head tilted a little bit again. Again, these are sort of subtle gestury type things. The angle of the camera starts to tell a little bit of a story. It looks like he's on his way to go fight some crime, and his sidekick Night Pony here is definitely ready for that. She's got a ready pose, and so there's some drama to it, to the scene, but the character in the scene looks like they're there for a purpose, for a reason. Let me show you a little bit, maybe some examples from some of the cards from the card game too, so we can see some of this. This is Sans Sheriff, and so he's basically the lifeguard on duty there. And so what I'm trying to do when I'm looking at giving this guy purpose is that I want to put him into a context that starts to tell you a little bit more about who he is. I've got one image to describe to you what's going on with this guy. And so I want him surfing. I want sand waves. He's a sheriff. I want a hat. And so but I also want to give that sense of story, purpose, attitude in his expression, in his body language, and also in the movement around him. So here's Chillax. Again, doesn't have to be anything heavy. Basically, her movement into the couch is what's giving her purpose. You can see that she is sinking into the couch and she's ready to go. Also, her eye line right there, it looks like there's maybe somebody else in the room. She's not just posing for the camera. This is something sort of, we've caught her mid chillax. Which what now? Again, there's some direction here. She's looking at the phone. She has a purpose. So you can use your eyes a lot when it comes to characters, but it's also just something that sort of shapes the pose, everything that's kind of going into it. Why am I drawing this character? This is about her and her attitude. She's got her finger up there. Again, here, cool man, this is a typical kind of action pose, but it's there. He has a purpose. He's trying not to get crushed. And sometimes that's me when I'm looking at deadlines. Gila Dancer also, here's another one. What's her purpose? I'm not exactly sure who she's dancing with, but she's dancing. And that's what matters, right? So again, you can sort of see that what we're trying to do is sort of tell a little bit of a story. Why is it that we're drawing this character? So as we're learning to draw, if we're looking at characters specifically, we want to be thinking about this stuff in the back of our mind. And some of it comes out in different doodles and different sketches. You may not get what you want the first time, and that's okay. So let's look at maybe how this all kind of comes together. Here's a character. And what we're doing what I'm doing in this sketch is just sort of using a lot of different ways. You can see like in this pose, she's got this arch to her that gives her some direction and some purpose. She's got an eye line. You can tell she's looking at what's going on. Her environment is starting to give her some context and to tell a little bit of a story, right? You can see this plane and it's on fire. So you can almost sort of read her mind, as she's about to do her superhero thing. And I'm going to guess that she's probably thinking probably thinking about, I bet they have hamburgers on that airplane. Pretty good hamburgers. Flame broiled, maybe. Anyway, yeah, so you can see that a lot of different things go into purpose, and why is it that this character is here? Not just flying by, but actually there's a little bit of a story to tell. So anyway, it's like I said, it can be kind of a subtle differentiation, but it's also something that's important to sort of have in the back of your mind while we're drawing, to be thinking about, why is this character here? Again, you don't have to do this every single time. It's not something that you have to do to do a good drawing. Your drawing can be fine, but if we're thinking about characters and we're thinking about doing something, making characters that people want to know more about, then what we want to do is we want to be thinking about, why is it that they're there? And we want to be drawing on purpose. So that's it for today. If you have questions, feel free to send them to me. If you want to see something specific, let me know. Leave a comment. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. And we're happy to hear from you, and I'll see you next time.